The meeting of Planning Board, Borough of Somerville for February 26, 2025 will please come to order. This meeting is called to order pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act. Both adequate and electronic notices of this meeting have been provided in the way of publication in the Courier News on December 24, 2024. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of the Borough Hall, located at 25 West End Avenue, posted on the municipal's website, provided to the municipal clerk, and distributed to all persons, if any, requesting copies of same. This meeting is being recorded with both audio and video and may be rebroadcast. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call.
Andrea Dare is excused. Chris Addicks.
Here.
Art Akins.
Here.
Larry Cleveland.
Here.
Jason Kraska.
Here.
John Manilio.
Here.
Barry Van Horn.
Here.
Mayor Gallagher.
Here.
Councilmember Vroom.
Here.
Chairperson Werner.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance. All right, I need a motion for approval for minutes from February 12th, 2025.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Chris Addicks was
I wasn't here for that meeting.
Larry Cleveland.
Yes.
Jason Kraska.
Yes.
John Manilio.
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom.
Yes.
Chairperson Werner.
Yes. All right, next up, we have our hearing for a preliminary site plan for Avalon Somerville Station Urban Renewal. This, for everybody's edification, this is a concept that had been already approved. What they are here for today, which has already been agreed upon in our redevelopment agreement, or is an agreement within our redevelopment agreement for preliminary site plan for the next phase. All yours, sir.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone again. Michael Bruno on behalf of Avalon Somerville Station Urban Renewal, LLC. This is a request for preliminary and final, maybe just preliminary tonight, site plan approval for what is known as the Phase 2 of the redevelopment project. As the board will note, Phase 1 has been completely built out and is a huge success. What was once a brownfield and a dilapidated train station has now become a clean site and with a new train station. Phase 1 that was developed by Avalon contains 2 buildings. There's 170 units in one of the buildings and 204 in the other. The other element of Phase 1 is the 156 townhouse homes that have been sold by Pulte. This is now Phase 2, which is the vacant 2.36 acre site. I guess it's to the west of where we're sitting, and is proposed for a 5-story, 171 residential rental unit project that will be the final phase of the Avalon project. Shared amenities, shared parking, and we'll describe on how tonight how that's going to operate. There's also 179 additional parking spaces within a parking garage underneath this building. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Lou Devine on behalf of Avalon. Ludovine O'Toole on behalf of Avalon.
Why don't we swear everybody in? How many witnesses?
Sure, so we're gonna have Ludovine O'Toole, who's the representative from Avalon, Mario Iannelli, who's the civil engineer, Arthur Michaels, who's the architect, Tom Carmen, who has done the landscape plan, and Carl Pankey, who's our traffic consultant.
Okay, so why don't we have everybody stand up? Let's swear you all in. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. And as they come up, you can just introduce them, and we'll put their qualifications on. For purposes of the record, we will mark as A1 the application and all supporting documentation. A2 will be the notice and the proofs of publication. PB1
Okay. Ludovine, if you could, introduce yourself and your affiliation with Avalon.
Okay. My name is Ludivine O'Toole. I'm a Senior Director of Development in New Jersey for Avalon Bay Communities. I've been a developer in New Jersey for 10 years, and I developed the Phase 1 of Avalon Somerville Station.
Okay. Could you just quickly summarize the project as it stands today and how this second phase will complement the existing phase?
Yep, I will do a brief summary of the operations as it stands today, and then we'll talk about how it will work as a whole community when Phase 2 is done. So the first phase of Avalon Somerville Station, which construction completed at the end of 2023, includes 374 units. The existing community is spread out in two buildings, the north building, which is labeled as Building A on the plans, and the south building, which is labeled as Building C on the plans. The north building includes 204 units, and the south building 170 units. Both buildings function as one large community, and they share complementary amenity spaces. So the north building includes the leasing office, the co-working space, the bike room, the pet park, and the rooftop deck and lounge. The south building includes the fitness center, the pet spa, the lounge, the pool deck, and the bike storage area. Both buildings have outdoor amenity spaces for the residents, and both buildings have their own mailroom, Amazon package locker room, and oversized package room. The north building is connected to the shared commuter parking deck, which includes 208 parking spaces that are reserved to the 204 units for Avalon Bay. Each unit in the north building has one reserved parking space in that shared commuter parking deck. North building residents that desire a second parking space are offered a space either within the south building parking deck, or they can elect to rent a space with Somerset Development in the shared commuter parking deck. The south building is connected to a private parking deck, which includes 318 parking spaces. Currently, the community is more than 95% occupied, which is considered fully leased. 191 of the 208 parking spaces of the shared commuter parking deck are occupied. 13 residents of the north building lease a commuter parking space from Somerset Development, and another 6 occupy a space in the south building parking deck. The south parking deck has 233 occupied parking spaces out of 318 total parking spaces. So overall, Avalon Somerville Station has 102 vacant parking spaces as it stands today. The current demand parking ratio of the community is 1.13, and the current supply parking ratio is 1.41. So the whole community, including the parking decks, have controlled access to the latch application for our residents and their visitors. The community is currently managed by a team of 3 leasing staff and 3 maintenance staff. Trash and recycling pickup is scheduled for both buildings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The Phase 2 building, or the West Building, will be fully integrated into the Avalon Somerville Station community and will add 191 units. The amenities within the West Building are limited to a large outdoor rooftop deck located along Robson Street. However, residents of the Phase 2 building will have full access to the amenities of the north and the south buildings. Similar to the other 2 buildings, residents will have their own mailroom, Amazon package locker room, and oversized package room within the building. The parking garage of the West Building includes 179 parking spaces. Similar to the North Building, each unit of the West Building will have access to 1 parking space within the West parking garage. The garage will be gated, and access will be granted to the building's residents through a license plate recognition system. Similar to the North Building residents, West Building residents that desire a second parking space will be offered access to the South parking deck, which currently has 85 vacant parking spaces. Overall, once Phase 2 is completed, we'll have 705 parking spaces that will be exclusive to Avalon Somerville Station residents, which is a 1.3 parking ratio, significantly above the 1.2 parking ratio required by zoning, and above the current demand parking ratio of 1.13. And the existing trash and recycling pickup schedule will remain unchanged.
Any quick thoughts on when you think you'll be able to start construction of this project?
Probably at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Some clarification. So I don't know if I misunderstood. Did you say 191 units or 171?
171.
Okay. And then my second question with the parking, so on the south building, I think earlier you stated there's 102 vacant spaces. Is that correct?
I think it's overall. Overall, it's 102. It's
Oh.
85 in
Okay,
South Parking
okay,
Deck.
that was my second question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's,
If I can, just quickly, just so for members of the public that haven't been to these meetings before, what we're going to do is let the applicant put on their testimony, all of their witnesses. You'll have the opportunity at the end of their presentation to ask any questions of their witnesses, and then to make any comments that you may have.
I'd like to call Mario Iannelli, civil engineer for this project.
Where are the exhibits?
Where do you want us to put the exhibits, the hard
Are they going
hard
to be posted on
copies?
the board, or do we use boards?
Are we using the computer? How,
Digital?
We
You have
sent-
them on the
we-
computer?
No, I don't. I have a thumb drive.
Yeah, Ryan can help you out with that.
Excuse me.
Sure. Mary, why don't you give the board the benefit of your education, affiliation, and experience?
Sure. My name is Mario Iannelli. I'm a senior vice president, associate vice president with Dewberry. I've been in front of this board numerous times on this project. We've started working on this project, geez, I think it's 2017, I think it was, or 16. I have a bachelor's in civil engineering from NJIT. I graduated in 1999. I have a master's in civil engineering that I received in 2001, and I've been a licensed civil engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1999. Appeared in front of many boards, including this one before, and my license is in good standing.
And you were the lead civil engineer on this entire project from the inception of it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So the board knows Mr. Iannelli. He gets credit for the design of this
Yes, he
site.
does. He's good.
All right, thank you. So Mary, as you go to the first exhibit, which you'll identify, just why don't you give the board the benefit of where this particular lot is,
I'm looking for it. Hold
its designation, what's currently there, and what is proposed.
And what he's gonna put on the screen was submitted as part of the application.
No, they were not. But right now, I'm not finding it on the thumb drive, which is strange. I'm not finding it on the thumb drive.
Get the right thumb drive?
Really?
You have the hard copies?
I have hard copies and boards. I apologize.
That's fine.
Yeah, why don't we use the easel over there?
I'm really sure how that happened. Would you like me to set up for that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Got one over here.
Can he manually?
Kara, for purposes of marking them, I have a reduced set.
Yeah.
So this will be marked as A3, and then we'll just identify it for the record.
This will be the existing site area?
Yes.
Do you need him to, can you help him show or him? Thanks, Ryan.
Are you gonna use one or both? Both.
Okay. Would you like me to describe them?
Please. And these were prepared under your direction,
That's
correct?
correct. So EX1 dated today is an aerial of the existing site. EX2 is a wider aerial shot with proposed development overlaid on it.
Okay, so we'll mark EX01 as A3, and EX02 will mark as A4.
You just speak into the standing microphone, you can take it off the stand.
Sure. EX1 was what?
This microphone, if you can, Marion.
EX1 was what?
EX1 was A3, and EX2 is A4.
And EX03 would be A5, I'm assuming?
Yep. And what's EX03?
EX03 is an aerial, just a larger scale, so it's a blow-up of the same area with the overlay of the new development.
Okay.
That was an interesting start to the meeting.
It's all uphill from here.
Okay, so,
Existing conditions.
yes. So, hold on a second, please. Of course, it's over there. You do not want me to try this without my glasses. So let's hit the reset button. Let's try this again. So the existing conditions. The existing site is known as block 123.05, lot 2.03. That is the site. It's roughly 2.36 acres. I'm going to be referring to the exhibits that are in front of you. EX1 shows the existing site as it stands today. As you can see, the site is currently paved. The site is located within the, as mentioned before, the station area and landfill redevelopment area. And the neighborhood within that redevelopment area is the hub. It's called the hub neighborhood within that redevelopment area. The underlying zone is a B6. And permitted uses within the redevelopment plan include residential multifamily, including rental and for sale are permitted uses. Other permitted uses are ground floor retail, live-at-work units, and townhouses. The site plan was approved in 2018, and we got subsequent approvals from the NJDEP in 2018-19, and we got subsequent approval from DOT for Station Road in 2022. Phase 1 consists of the New Jersey Transit Garage. I'm going to refer to the overall area, which is EX2. I'm going to have to stand up for this. You have the existing transit garage. I'm pointing at EX2. You have Building A, which wraps around the garage. Then you have Building C, which is located south of that, south of Robinson. It's also including the private garage. And then as you go west, you have the 156 townhouses, or the majority of them. And as you can see from EX2, this existing parking lot that is currently paved is where the proposed development is slated to go. And you can see from EX2, we've overlaid the proposed development onto the aerial for context. Building A, as you heard before, has 204 units with 208 stalls. Building C has 170 units with 318 stalls. The New Jersey Transit Garage has 533 units, of which 325 are reserved, are transit, and 208 spaces are for the Avalon Garage. There's 14 stacked towns that includes up 156 total units. There's the 1,400 square foot commercial space, which is located in the southwest corner of Building A, and of course the assembly space, which we're sitting in right now. Phase 2, again, is proposed to go on the existing paved site. So it's basically a redevelopment of an existing developed site. The proposal includes 171 units, of which they're multifamily residents, including 16 studios, 95 one-bedroom, 59 two-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom. Approximate square footage is about 245,000 square feet. The majority of the improvements will be on-site. When you compare, if you look at EX2, you'll see that the building in its shape and context kind of fits into the surrounding neighborhood. It kind of is very similar to the patterns of the development that we got approved to date. As I mentioned before, the existing lot is paved. That lot was an interim lot for transit parking when the deck was being built. It was not being utilized for current parking. As I don't believe I've been out here numerous times, and there's really been no parking on that lot. The building layout, I'm going to refer to EX3 if you don't mind. So EX3, I'm referring to, I want to describe it briefly. Basically, what you see in EX3 is a larger scale of the development. So it gives it a little more context. I'm highlighting here Robeson Ave. The proposed building will be between Robeson Ave and New Jersey Transit right-of-way. The lobby will be in the southwest corner of the site. The existing bike path will be maintained between Building A and the proposed building. The entrance to the garage is located directly across from the entrance for the existing townhouse, which is the optimal location because you'd like to line up the intersections. As you work around, I'm highlighting about center south of the building. That is where the mechanical room is, the trash room is. That area there, the trash room is inside the building. As you work around clockwise, there is a loading area for move-ins on the northwest corner. So as you come up and around, there's a slip right here where a moving truck can back in, and move-ins will take place where them unloading that truck, coming down the sidewalk, and there's a roll-up door that goes to a interior space that has a freight elevator for them to move in. We really tried to work as best we could to minimize any off-site improvements. We are to accommodate the driveway to go into the building and to accommodate a striped area for the trash to be picked up. We are losing 4 on-street parking associated with the project. Check my notes. The project, basically, the site as it stands today is grades from the railroad to Robeson Ave. The grades along the railroad are roughly 64, 65, and the low point on Robeson is about 55. So the ideal location for the garage is at the low point, so you can get under the proposed podium. So the parking occurs under the building, so your ideal location is to put it as where the road is the lowest. Amenities, there's going to be 3 courtyards. You'll hear more about that from the landscape architect and the architect. But you also heard from Ludovine that there's a shared element to the amenities. So this is looked at as a 3-building community that have amenities that are shared. And also, on top of amenities, there's also parking that is shared between the south deck, the south building or building C, and the proposed garage underneath the proposed building. Operationally, like I said, they're sharing amenities, and I think Ludovine touched on it, that when you look at the number of parking stalls that they are providing between the 3 buildings, it's 705 spaces, when the required is 654. So they're exceeding the ordinance, or I should say the redevelopment plan requirement. Overall, the parking required for the site post-development is 1190, and we're building 1312. Now, those are actual spaces. That's not me taking any credits for the EV bonus. As you know, the state of New Jersey allows you to actually count every EV space as 2 spaces. Well, we did that on the plans, but I'm talking parking to parking. These are spaces. This is not taking advantage of the EV bonus. So you're looking at about 122 overall spaces, and I'll say approximate because there's still some coordination, obviously, that we need to work out. But our goal is to minimize any impact to the on-street parking, and so we are about 100 to 122 over. As part of the improvements too, you'll see that we're going to, if you walk the site now, you see that the streetscape has not been done. The trees are not in. The lights are in, but the trees are not in. So the lighting for this site will include all the street lights that were originally proposed along Robinson, and the lights will also include lighting in the rear along Transit. So basically, the front of the site will be lit very similar, if not exactly like the rest of the community, except for some wall-mounted lights over by the transformer and also by the utility rooms, because they just need lights to be able to go safely in and out of those access ways. In the rear of the building, they're going to have roughly 10 wall-mounted lights, about 10 feet high, and that's to light the rear of the site. And I'd like to touch upon the rear of the site, if you don't mind. We worked extensively with New Jersey Transit, to come up with a configuration in the back that was acceptable to them, because the goal here was to not only provide, a good development, but was also to make sure Transit can continue to operate and had what they needed from an access perspective. So this road that you see along the back is actually going to be gated shut, right? So vehicles cannot drive back there except for transit vehicles. It's not a road. I don't want you to think it's a road behind the building, but it is there for an event of emergency or if transit needs to access something for the maintenance of the track. And also want to highlight again, because it was a really important part when we did the original design and original approval, I mentioned before the bike lane that comes from, I'm looking at EX3, comes from the station, and it's going down through west of Building A and east of the new building. It will continue down through the townhouse development and down to the green seam. All of that is being maintained. The lighting along the bike path will be either complemented with wall packs on the new building, and the existing bollards will be replaced. Most of them are being reused, but some of them need to be replaced just because of the change on the building. So from a lighting perspective, the streets are going to be basically lit identical to every part or the rest of the community, and there'll be a de minimis change in the back. But the lighting along the rail line is really more about safety and security. Stormwater. From a stormwater perspective, we're basically reducing impervious coverage. That was a goal of ours, and we're also increasing the amount of landscaping. So between those two and reducing what they call vehicular pavement, our vehicular pavement's being dropped by almost 1.5 acres, because what is now a parking lot is being replaced with a building. And from a New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection perspective, a building is considered clean runoff, while the pavement where vehicular traffic does drive is considered requiring water quality. So we are reducing overall impervious, and we're all reducing from a water quality perspective. The system downstream of it has been designed to handle this. It goes out to a 72-inch outfall to the green seam, and it was always contemplated to be completely paved. So the system has more than enough capacity to handle the site. From a street tree perspective, just to touch on the street trees, The original project had 13 street trees proposed along this. We're putting 13 street trees in, so it'll have the same number of street trees. And there was a typo on the plans. The original project was approved with 204 street trees, not 304. So we were just, I meant to say in the plans that we're matching the 204, but I mistakenly wrote 304, so I apologize for that. You're going to hear from the landscape architect that on top of the street trees, there's also an extensive amount of planting along all sides of the building, along the transit. Just so you know, in the rear of the site, we had more landscaping originally, but transit wanted more pavement to allow them to bring their vehicles in and out. From a solid waste perspective, the trash room is inside the building, like I had mentioned. Again, I'll reference to EX2. It's located right where I'm highlighting here. So basically, the trash room, the mechanical room, the water room is all located about center west on the southern part of the building along Robinson. The trash will be kept inside, and there's recycling pickup and trash pickup twice a week each. That will happen in the morning. They will be wheeled out, picked up, and the containers will then be returned into the trash room within the building. There is no exterior storage of trash at this site.
And that's consistent with the redevelopment plan requirements.
That is correct.
So we don't have, just for clarity, there's no recycling plan submitted, but the outline of what you just testified to is in the redevelopment plan.
The outline, yes, the redevelopment plan requests that it'll all be done inside or in a screened compound.
Okay.
So it's all inside. I think I touched on move-ins because this will come up in a second. The move-ins, again, there's something within the redevelopment plans that talk about loading on the front part of the site. We believe, well, by putting the loading in the northwest corner off to the side, we believe we comply with it because we are putting our loading off to the northwest. Again, if you look at EX2, it's tucked in along the rail. So that's really only loading and unloading that's going to occur, except for the trash that's got to be picked up, like I said, in the mornings 4 times a week between recycling and trash. It's 2 times each, by the way, so I want to make sure I say that. You'll hear from the architect. There was some signage proposed. There are 3 signs on the new building. The signage includes 2 on either side of the new building, and the architect will get into more detail, and 1 at the lobby. The leasing office is going to remain within Building A, where it is today. There is a request, though, to provide more wayfinding signs to find a leasing office. So we're proposing 3 wayfinding signs in the grass strip along the road, which is basically, as you enter the site, I'll highlight where they are, basically. So when you enter the site from South Bridge Street, you come in here, there's going to be, I want to go to the other one. I'm going to go to EX2 again. When you enter from South Bridge Street, the goal is to direct people as they're pulling in to come into the plaza area, and the leasing office is here. So they're looking to add some signage as you enter, and also for where the new building is to direct them back to the leasing office. So the leasing office itself is not changing, but they just want to have better wayfinding for their future residents when they're trying to find the leasing office. From a utility perspective, all the utilities are going to be serviced either along Robinson or down through the drainage that goes down to the existing outfalls. The sanitary sewer will be picked up on the westerly side, and that's going to go down to South Davenport. The waters, I've been in touch with New Jersey American Water. There's an existing 8-inch line that's fed from 2 8-inches from the 30-inch that's down South Bridge. I'm sorry, not South Bridge, South Davenport. We're going to have meetings with them, but we have already talked to them about the metering and all the details. So we'll be working the details out with them. The stormwater, like I had mentioned, will be handled from the infrastructure that was designed from the initial design to contemplate this as a paved site. And gas and electric, we believe, is going to be coming in from Robinson. So there was 2 reports. I would like to touch upon CHA's report. Chris was good enough to meet with me twice. We went through the report, and there were just a couple. Most of the comments we can comply with. So there's really no need to go through it bullet by bullet. And if I miss something, Chris will definitely let me know. And so there was an item number 4B where there was a note, it was just a numeric issue that I numbered wrong, so it was just a typo.
And this is the February 12th letter you're referring to?
That is correct. Let me grab that. Number 5, the new driveway. There was a question about site distance, and we both agreed that the driveway is located in the most optimal place considering the grade and lined up from the adjacent driveway across. You like to have your intersections lined up. It's more uniform, and drivers' decisions are easier when they're lined up. And you have plenty of site distance. It's going to be in the range of 250, plus or minus. So you have plenty of site distance. The loading we touched upon. There was a comment, I think it was number 7, about whether the striped area for the trash was compliant with the redevelopment plan. Again, in my opinion, it is, because the loading is really occurring in the northwest corner, and this is just a simple area for them to pick up the trash. Number 11, we had some conversations about New Jersey American Water. I did confirm that they still have a master permit, Chris. And so we'll be meeting with them, and I'll advise Chris as we're meeting with them to go through the details.
I'm sorry, what number was that?
That was number 11.
Okay, thank you.
At 11D, there was a concern about, I'll show you on the screen, it's a little easier. When we're running the new sanitary down Sternadori Road down to South Davenport, we have to do a little more utility investigation. So he had asked if we can try to raise our drainage to try to interrupt the road as least as possible. So we have no problem with that, but we just have to look at and make sure we know where the water lines are. So if we can accommodate that, we absolutely will. Actually, we want to, but we put in the worst case scenario. I believe the majority of the other comments we went through the stormwater and everything else, and most of the comments we found were just housekeeping items that we can address. So, Chris, if I missed anyone and you want me to touch on, please let me know.
Let's touch on an issue that we saw in this letter, as well as the fire prevention, is the EV spaces. Could you describe where they're located and what the protections are in the building that will address any concerns that were raised?
I will touch on those, but I think some of the sprinklers I'll have to defer to the architect. But the EV spaces that are being proposed, I believe there's 31, and they're within the garage underneath the building. This is not uncommon. EVs are going, I'm working on numerous residential developments, and you'll hear from the architect certain things about the construction of this being a concrete podium. Also, it is sprinklered, and the level of sprinkler you'll hear from the architect is what the fire official was requesting. There's also a fire blanket, and we've had this come up in the past where there's actual blankets that are made to cover EV-type fires to smother it, and the applicant has no problems providing that. From an EV perspective, like I said, when we looked at the parking, one of the things I tried to stay away from, even though it's on the plans, is taking advantage of one space equaling 2, because I felt, parking was critical here, and I wanted you to know the real numbers. But the EVs will be located, I believe, along the perimeter wall, but again, I'll let the architect walk through it. But they are within the building. This is not uncommon, and I would defer to the architect to touch upon some of the sprinklers and also the concrete construction.
That completes our direct. Any other questions? Any additional testimony the engineer would like to hear that we didn't touch on? We tried to touch on all your comments. So if there's anything else that you want us to testify.
Just, can you touch on the generator, the on-site generator? emergency generator?
Sure, well, the generator that's on site is actually for transit. And the site has been designed for a portable generator to be brought in if and when required. There's not a proposed generator currently on the site.
Okay, because obviously our OEM has taken positions that, and I don't know whether a portable generator would comply. Yeah, and, you know, it's not to power the entire building with full service, with all the lights blazing. It's an ability to power it so people can shelter in place, charge their phones, keep their, some of the lights going.
Well, as of now, I was just talking to the client. Right now, there's really no indoor amenity space on this site, but I think this conversation could be had. I mean, I know right now there is not a generator proposed. I know that they are comfortable with the fact that there's not a lot of amenity space internal to the building. But obviously, that's something we would have to work out with the township. If a generator's required and a portable generator is not adequate, I mean, that's really got to be worked out.
I think this issue came up on the first two buildings, and I think we have generator for the common space, I'm going to call it. So that would be envisioned to be available for these residents, so they all share the common elements.
And are those installed emergency
Yes.
generators?
Yes.
Okay, so that,
Yeah, so the concern at the last meeting, I mean, we're going back 6 years now, 7 years, was that we just got done with Superstorm Sandy, and people didn't have anywhere to, like you said, congregate with some electricity for their phones and lights and so forth. So we agreed at that point to put those generators in for that type of limited generation.
yeah, it's part of an overall emergency management plan, which I believe is also required under
required, yes.
the redevelopment.
So if there is an additional generator, although we don't have this level of common area in this
Yeah.
building.
Okay.
Well, and I
I
think,
just got word it's okay for us to add a generator on the site.
an on-site,
Okay.
okay. The details of which you'll work out, because this is preliminary, the details you work out for final.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just have a question about your EV charging stations. Are there charging stations within that parking structure?
The proposed deck? Yes.
Is there any way of moving them external to the deck? The one thing that we've been trying to keep outside of, obviously you can't keep EV cars out, but the charging stations themselves adds an element of public safety that we are trying to deter away from. So charging stations themselves, is there any way to move those to the exterior?
Well, when you look at this site, there's no exterior parking on the site. So there's really no way to move them. I would not recommend moving them on the street parking because I think you will, then those spaces will be prioritized or maybe used up more by AV spaces. Again, I think it's not uncommon for them to be in structures. It really is not. And I think when you hear the testimony about the construction and what's going on with the sprinklers, but on site, there's really no way to have an exterior 31 spaces. There's just no 31 spaces
So all
available.
31 spaces are charging stations?
Yes.
Yeah, so we saw that comment. In fact, we had an internal debate whether that was a typo, if we meant external to the interior walls, interior space, because there's just simply no area on the outside to put these. So in any event, all of the fire prevention techniques, mitigation systems, type of construction, fire suppression with the sprinklers.
I can tell you all the fire suppression you have, and that is not putting out those fires. So the fire suppression
And the
isn't
blankets,
the
and the
issue.
blankets. So everything that was mentioned as a request, the applicant's agreeable to.
The challenge challenge you have, not we have, is that this board has already taken positions on applications very recently that required the charging stations be outside and not adjacent to the building.
Yeah, so there's just no area to do that here. We wouldn't have them then. So, hopefully, when we present the testimony of the architect, we can get you satisfied that all of the mitigation that your fire department talked about, we're able to provide to give you the level of comfort that it's safely constructed, and if, God forbid, there is a fire, it will be suppressed.
Yeah, it's a hurdle. I can tell you that from the board's perspective, it is a hurdle.
Certainly permit it in your redevelopment plan, but we'll let us get the testimony in and we'll talk about what we can do.
So, the road in the back,
Yes.
the transit access,
Yes.
would our emergency services also have access to
Absolutely.
that through a Knox box or?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then probably more for the landscape architect, the trees that are going in. Are they little tiny trees, or are they somewhat nice trees that have a little bit of maturity to them, so it doesn't take them 10 years to be a small tree?
Why don't we bring the architect?
I'm
landscape
stealing
architect-
Larry's thunder, but
Why don't we bring the landscape architect up now, because that's the site element that we haven't really covered in depth. So I'd like to, if I could, and Mario can stay here, but if I could, I'd have Tom Carmen come up from Melillo and Bauer, who designed the amenity package as well as the landscaping plan, and show you what is proposed.
Okay, if you don't mind, I have actually a couple questions about parking as well.
Sure.
So if you want to stick with the
Please.
engineer. I didn't hear, so I know there's 179 parking spaces proposed for this building.
Yes.
Where there's a higher demand, correct? So there's a shared parking element.
Yes.
I didn't hear any testimony as far as how far is the shared parking deck from this facility. I think the redevelopment plan has a requirement of 500 feet or less.
This is a 50 scale, right? And I'm going to double check it right now. So the garage itself, I'm highlighting on EX2. This is the garage it's sharing. If I do a straight line, it's about 300 feet. So to the other side of the garage, 500 feet would land about almost 3/4 across the garage.
Okay.
That's measured from the corner of the new building, the closest corner of the new building. What about practical from the entrance?
That is the entrance. That's the lobby.
What about the courtyard area?
The lobby's the entrance. That's where people will be going in.
That's the only place, you can't come out through the,
Well, this is, my understanding, this is utility access here, and then
no, I
here's
meant the green area that's in the middle. I can't see it, so I don't know.
the green area here. These are actually elevated. You'll understand that those are not at the
Okay, I
ground.
just couldn't see
They're, okay, so let the,
And then, I'm not sure if this question's for you or maybe for the applicant rep. As far as parking, so how is the parking designated? Do all residents get a parking spot, or is it paid, or how's that work?
Ludwig, you want to come up and respond to that?
you don't need the mic, sit down.
All unit will get one parking spot they have to pay for. If they want a second space, then they can have one in the south parking deck, or of course, a New Jersey Transit parking deck, and they will pay for it too.
So they get the first spot, but they have to pay for it?
Correct, but
Right.
it's mandatory.
Oh, okay, it's mandatory.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. They're not paying for it and they're looking for parking outside.
Now they'll have to take it.
it's part of the rental agreement?
Yep.
Okay.
Same thing for the north building.
Okay.
And we spoke with the manager of the transit deck for this meeting, and there's on average 200 open spaces during the weekday and 300 open spaces during the weekends. You can rent those by the day, the week, the quarter, the month. So those who wanted to have an extra spot, they could get it if it wasn't available on the street.
And another question with the parking. So I know we are losing, I guess, 2 spaces, or is it 4
4.
spaces on the street? Now, have we looked to see, do we still meet the parking requirements for the townhouses? I'm not sure who parks on the street, but in general, is there enough parking still? Or are we shorthanding the?
Well, the townhouses have, you gotta look at areas. The townhouses in the, I'll call it the northwest corner, have parking along the rail. So this is, I'm talking about the northwest corner, there's some parking here. The townhouses south of the Building C have little driveways in front. The area I'm going to focus on is area between South Davenport and Robinson. We're only losing 4 spaces. I know that one's too many, but we have to create the entrance and we have to create an area for trash. I mean, it's just, unfortunately, that's what we have to do. They were designed to use their garages. You know, that's number one. So the garages within the townhouses is parking space number one. And then obviously the roads have not been taken over by the township yet. So operationally, there may need to be some review of it, of how it's operating and who's using it, how they're using it, because operationally is probably the single most important thing, I think, here, is how who's parking in the street, when they're parking in the street, how long they're parking in the street. You know, so that's, in my opinion, it meets and exceeds the ordinance. But the reality is operationally, it has to be addressed, I think, when the town takes these over and put in more operational controls on who can use it. And it's also really important for the garages within the townhouses, you know, be used. I mean, that's point one. And I'm not saying they are or they're not, but I can tell you that when you have one garage and they're not being used, that would be, you know, significant if a certain percentage of those people were doing that. So if between the garages and the on-street parking and a better management system of who's using them, I think we exceed the ordinance, and I think that operationally it can be improved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if you actually answered it.
Well,
If we
we're
meet
not-
the requirement for parking, the 188
We're
parking
meeting the
spaces.
parking and exceeding the parking for the townhouses, because
Okay.
the redevelopment plan encouraged the on-street parking to be used. It's actually within the redevelopment plan that on-street would be used as part of the compliance. That's why we have handicap parking in the streets. It's why we designed it the way we did. So the parking itself is distributed well across the site. Again, you can have enough parking, but is if it operating correctly or not, or if it's being managed correctly or not, that's something different.
Okay.
So can I just add on that? I think my question still is taking away those 4 spots, are you now taken away from what you were approved as mandatory required training from the first phase?
Mandatory.
What was required for phase 1?
No, we had access, and we
You
still
had
have
access.
access.
Yes, we had access. I mean, the way it's designed now, overall, the parking itself is overparked by roughly 122 spaces, but it's spread around the whole site. So as per the ordinance in the redevelopment plan. But again, you know, there's got to be some plan in place on how and who are using these spaces, and to prioritize, you know, uses that have the need more than others.
So, to respond, we're not creating any variances or
Thank you,
waivers
that's
or
what I
anything
was
of that
wondering.
nature. We're still overparked, but we understand townhouses like a lot of parking. And it's a sensitive issue, and we did everything we could to try to design this not to lose any parking spaces. But overall, the site is more than amply parked, and if you really had to use the transit garage, that's always available. Hundreds of spaces a day on a weekday, and more than that, 300 a day on the weekends, so.
Refresh my memory, how many are available in the south deck? On average?
102 extra?
No, South Deck was 85?
On average, 85 extra?
On the average, 85.
Okay.
So, I don't think the issue is for the residents of the apartments. They have plenty of parking and some. It's the issue of, there's the townhouse, people who have the garage, driveway, and parking spaces, will they miss the 4 spaces? And the answer is that it's overparked as it is, and there's ample parking in the garage if they needed extra parking.
So it's your testimony, there is infringement on the parking, it might be commuter parking, it might be people parking on the street that are taking the train.
Well,
It's-
there's 4 less spots on the street.
Okay.
Still overparked, but 4 less than we had.
And we could certainly discuss a condition whereby the applicant could work with the borough, as he indicated, once there is the timeframe is satisfied, everything that's constructed, where the borough's gonna take over those roadways. discuss, how's this working? Do we need to make some changes? Do we need to, and assess it at that point when we actually know if there's gonna be a problem?
Yeah, I think, well, I think we know there is a problem, and I'm guessing a lot of the folks that are here tonight are here for that very specific reason. A number of which are familiar faces because they've come before the council before regarding the parking. And it's obviously something that is not an issue that the borough can control at this point yet, nor this planning board. But I actually like that idea where, and I think you would be amenable to that as well, is to create this transition plan of parking from the property owner to the borough at the appropriate time when the borough takes control of those roads. And we can define what that is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's probably gonna be sooner than later also, as the roads are, I mean, we have to get the heavy stuff out of the way on this phase, but roads are pretty much done and ready to be transitioned, so we can have that conversation in the short term.
Just one last question. Again, not sure if it's for the engineer or maybe for the architect. Do you know what the clear height is in the garage?
That's for the architect.
Okay, no problem.
So let's do two things. Let's bring the landscape architect up first, try to address the trees and size and so forth, the amenity package, and then we'll go to the architect of the building to talk about some of the fire issues we're concerned about, the look of the building, any other concerns you have, and then finally we'll have Carl Pankey, who's a traffic engineer, just touch upon some of the comments that we heard in the review letter, and that would complete our testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm good, I think. Thank you.
Tom, as you put your exhibits up that you're gonna refer to, and we're up to,
We're up to
A7.
A6.
No, A6 is the
Six.
landscape plan,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And Tom, this was prepared under you or others under your direction?
That's correct. It was prepared under my direction.
Okay. Could you just identify your background, education, and experience as a landscape architect?
I sure can. Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. I'll get it right. My name's Thomas S. Carmen, with the firm Melillo Bauer Carmen. We're landscape architects, 200 Union Ave in Brielle. And I'm a licensed landscape architect in the state. My license is valid since 1997. I have a degree in landscape architecture from Rutgers University.
And your firm was involved with the initial phases of this project, correct?
That's correct, that's correct.
Okay. Why don't you just give the board the benefit of a summary of what you were trying to accomplish here with the exterior, landscaping, and then the amenity package that you've designed?
Very
Okay, and
good.
we're gonna accept him as an expert in
Yes,
fields of landscape.
sorry.
Okay, just
Yes.
wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the graphic that we have up here, it's entitled Streetscape Level Landscape Plan. It's dated today, and we're gonna mark this one as A6.
Six.
So, same orientation as the previous exhibits with Robeson down at the bottom and transit line at the top of the sheet. We've prepared a richly detailed landscape plan that includes a variety of plant material, native as well as some adaptive plant material along the street frontages, the sides of the building, as well as the rear of the building itself. There's about 30 different varieties of plant material that make up this kind of diverse palette. We have deciduous trees along Robeson as well as Sternadori. And as Mr. Iannella indicated, we have the same quantity as what was previously proposed. There were 13 trees in original. We still have 13. Along Robeson, they're Sargent cherries. So they're proposed with smaller root ball, so that way to accommodate some below-grade utilities. On the west side, those 3 trees are a red maple. And in terms of the size of the trees, right, we're kind of, what we're limited by is the dimension between the curb and the sidewalk. That's a dimension that the tree root ball itself can go in. So we're proposing a 3 to 3.5 inch caliper tree on the west side, but down along Robeson, we have it's actually a little bit of a smaller tree. Hearing the concern, I think we have the ability to upsize that to that same size, that same 2.5 to 3 inch caliper, and accommodate that root ball within the curb to sidewalk dimension. One of the other requirements, just based on the lot size, there's a requirement for trees also. And when I get up to the amenity deck, you're going to see that there are 7 trees proposed up there also that meet that requirement of 6 trees based on the lot size itself. Along the building foundation, we have some evergreen trees as well as shrubs and deciduous evergreen shrubs, and we also utilize some ornamental grasses. So we look at the architecture, we locate them to complement the architecture and provide kind of a layered and textured effect with that native plant material. Condensers are screened with the plant material itself, and then any utilities like a transformer, we work with the utility provider to make sure that we're providing access that they require, as well as then screening it to soften the visual experience of it. Planting along the bikeway respects the existing bollards, any of the lighting along there, as do the rest of the site. All planting is coordinated with the overall site lighting. At the lobby entrance, which is kind of the southeast corner, we utilize some decorative pavement to accent that lobby and complement the architecture. I'm going to mark the next graphic as A7. And this is entitled Composite Landscape Plan. So same orientation, and now what we've done is we've layered the architecture as well as the courtyard space on top of that parking garage.
I'm sorry, really quickly, the date of that one? Today's date as well?
Yes, it's today's date, the 26th.
Thank you.
On the north side, there are 2 courtyard spaces that are open to the transit line. They include some private terraces. So the residential units that open on that level have a private patio for themselves. There is some extensive green roof planting, so that's like shallow soil volume that takes up some stormwater, as well as kind of mitigates some urban heat island effect. And then there also is some utilities for the mechanics of the building that are proposed over there, and those are screened with a fence enclosure. On the south side, there's a larger courtyard. Again, we propose some private residential terraces for the units over there. And then just a nice complement of outdoor passive recreation amenities similar to the other Avalon Bay community buildings, such as barbecue grilling, lounge seating spaces. We're utilizing some lush planting also. The planting in this location, we have to work through some engineered soil, being that it's on a rooftop. That's lightweight but can sustain the planting itself. This is where there are 7 additional trees up on this level, and those are within larger scale planters to accommodate those trees. All the planting down at the street level, this upper area, are all selected based on sun and shade conditions and certainly hardy for the application. That's an overview of the landscape improvements.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, you had mentioned on the western side there were red maple.
That's correct.
You had said 3 to 3.5 inch caliper tree,
Yes.
but then you said you would match the ones on Robeson. Is it gonna match? Because we've had discussions about calipers of trees, and 3 inch caliper really means 2.5, because it still qualifies. That's nice. We wanna see some trees that are gonna be there and look like they're not scrawny and they're gonna survive.
Understood. Yeah, so the way it is from a nursery standard, you specify the caliper in that range as you indicated, and that range then directly, as I mentioned, relates to the root ball size that they dig the tree, which then directly relates to that dimension between the curb and the sidewalk in terms of getting it, actually planting it when it's time. So on the west side, yes, we're proposing red maple over there, and those are at the 2.5 to 3 inch caliper. So when it comes time for us to further specify, work with the contractor, I hear the board, we will try and get it towards the 3 inch caliper, certainly.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, because as soon as you have a range, it goes to the lower range instantly.
Understood,
And it's stuck like that forever.
understood.
Mike, is there a requirement in the redevelopment agreement or plan for maintenance bonds for time periods for
Not-
landscaping or
Not
anything like
other
that?
than as provided in the land use law
Okay,
that I'm aware of.
okay.
Now, when I did indicate that we would match on the Robeson Street, I'm not saying that we're gonna match the tree variety, but we will match the size. We will increase it to that
Yeah,
size.
you want species diversity,
Agreed.
that makes sense, and that's not a problem, just,
Right.
we wanna see something substantial. Well, at least, that's what the environmental commission wants to see.
Understood.
Something substantial, that's gonna actually do its job, which is to create shade
Right,
and beauty.
very good,
Thank you.
thank you.
A question about the green roofs and I guess, the north side of the building. How are those accessed or maintained?
There's a utilitarian stair on the north side of the building that brings access for maintenance up to that location to maintain the green roof as well as any of the mechanical equipment.
Okay, and then the screening for the mechanical, I'm looking at the architectural plans, and again, maybe this is for the architect. Is the screening for the mechanicals from the apartments or to the, I guess, the north side as well for the mechanicals?
It's primarily from the view of the apartments is the way we have it detailed right now.
Okay, and do you know if the mechanicals will be visible from the other side of the tracks?
I do not know the answer to that, but our goal would be to screen it as well, so we will look into that.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else?
All right, let us bring the architect up, who's also our planner. And we're going to talk about the buildings, some of the fire issues that you're concerned about, as well as the signage. And we do need one item for relief with respect to the signage that we're going to describe in a moment and present the testimony in support of that. All right, Michael, why don't we, Arthur, why don't we have you introduced and sworn, or you've been sworn,
I've been
but
sworn,
introduced,
yes.
but your experience, education, and affiliation.
Sure, my name's Arthur Michaels. I'm principal, Michaels and Waldron, Architects and Planners. I have a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Kent State University School of Architecture and Environmental Design. I've been a licensed architect in New Jersey since 1986, a licensed professional planner in New Jersey since 1987. Both of the licenses are current. I have licenses in numerous other states. I also am a member of the American Institute of Architects, NCAA already certified lead professional. I've testified before hundreds of planning boards over almost the last 40 years, which I can't believe.
Mr. Chairman, I'd offer Mr. Michaels as an expert
We accept
in
it.
architecture.
Thank you very much.
So, why don't you just generally describe what you designed here and how it will flow and what the elements you use to create the look that you've created here?
Sure, well, just going through the building real quick. It's a 5-story building, and about 245,349 square feet. 171 units that we've mentioned before, which include 16 studios, 95 one-bedrooms, 59 two-bedrooms, and 1 3-bedroom unit. Okay, the plan I have up to my right here was in the set that was submitted, and in sheet A2 It is the garage level plan, it is the lowest level plan, it's down on the grade.
So we'll mark that as A8. Garage level plan.
Yep. So, and this was in the package, but it looks like we've got,
It's exactly as what was submitted.
yep, looks like we've got some highlighting on there, so we'll mark it as A8.
I think the highlighting was on the
Was it
original
on there too?
one.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
okay.
I'm
That's all
happy
right,
to mark
we'll mark it. And which sheet was that again?
It was sheet A2.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is the garage level plan. It shows 179 parking spaces. Over on the right side, which is on the southeast corner, is the lobby for the building, a stairway elevator going up, and it includes the mailroom package rooms. More or less in the center of the garage, as Mario described, is the entrance to the garage that you go through, and over to the left area, the area in yellow, is the mechanical and trash areas in there. It was noticed in one of the reports that the immediate first two aisles as you come in are dead-end parking, and the one in particular on left has parking spaces that are right up against the wall, and there was a concern that we should have at least the parking spaces being 1 foot off. The parking space sizes that we have in here are 9 by 18 spaces. The redevelopment plan recognizes that in parking garages, 8.5 by 18-foot spaces are permitted in parking garages. We would propose taking the 2 spaces immediately next to the exterior wall, diminishing those down in size to 8.5 by wide spaces, thus giving an extra foot clearance to be in conformance with the engineer's request. Also in the garage, there's 6 handicap spaces, 3 compact spaces. The compact spaces are up in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little niche in the wall, so it was an obvious place to put them. They really don't affect any other units, and they're set off to the side by themselves. And they were put in virtue the footprint that we had to work with. I'm going to go in, before we get into everything, deal with the EV right up front. We have 31 EV spaces. I've seen the letter from the fire department. We're proposing putting all 31 spaces on the back exterior wall where there's plenty of ventilation. The garage is fully sprinklered. We will put the blankets in and the dispensers for the blankets as the fire department requested, and we will conform to all the other alarms, the specifications for the sprinkler system, and so on that he had talked about. Mario touched a little bit about the construction of the garage. This garage is a little bit unique because it's a poured-in-place concrete structure. In the building code, it's classified as for the garage portion, or what they call type 1A construction. It is the highest level of construction that the building code recognizes for separation for fire and fire protection of structural elements and separations from the building. You know, the slab to the upper occupancies is a 3-hour fire-rated separation, and likewise the columns and the building structure itself is 3-hour rated in this. This is very unusual. You know, the code, in most cases, doesn't require this. Parking garages are allowed to have as little as a 1-hour separation from a parking garage to other occupancies like this up above. So we are providing triple that in the fire resistance rating. And that fire resistance rating is a rating that is tested with assemblies that have been tested by underwriter assemblies that are state accepted, and they're all tested assemblies. So that's, and we put them there. The other thing I'd like to point out, the way the garage is going to be ventilated, is we're going to be ventilating out towards the back and drawing fresh air in off of the Roberson side. So in the event that there was any kind of problem, the natural ventilation of the garage and the mechanical ventilation of the garage would be enhancing, pulling any smoke out of the garage, thereby adding another level of safety into the garage construction.
And you, as a licensed architect, designed this building, you're satisfied at the EV station?
Absolutely, and we've done many buildings, you know, that have EV in the garage, and this particular building I'm very comfortable in saying is as safely designed with it cognizant of the situation as any, and probably more so than 90%. Okay, going through some of the other issues, I think that the fire department, we have the trash room over here, electrical rooms and mechanical rooms. Fire department also raised another question. Right now, the water meter room and some of those mechanical rooms, we had originally designed for just access to those rooms from the exterior. The fire department requested that we provide access from the interior of the garage to get into those rooms. To do that, once again, utilizing the ability to have 8.5-foot wide parking spaces, I would take 3 bays of these parking spaces and narrow the parking spaces up in those down to 8.5 foot versus 9. The 4.5 feet that I would pick up will give me an access aisle to get from the garage itself to that mechanical area. And then I'll make adjustments in that mechanical area to make sure that there's access to all the spaces to satisfy the fire department's question on that. The other rooms that are in the garage is down the other end. There's another electrical room. We do have another lobby down that end, which is primarily for the move-in, and another support. It has an elevator that's two-sided, that, you know, residents can either go into the elevator lobby, go up to the building from the parking garage, or if there's a move-in, it can come in there and they can get there, and it's separated, and that's one of the advantages of having the two-sided garage. Let me just see. I guess one of the other questions was, is it gated? Ludovine answered that, yes, we have a gate, and it'll be operated by license plate recognition. The next plan I'd like to just put up is a 3 out of our set, and it's the ground floor plan. It shows that there's 42 units on this level. It's very simple, similar to the units, the levels above. The levels above actually have 43 units on it. The difference is that this one has the 2 points of access to get to the outside courtyard off of the lobby and off of that back hallway. Once again, the fire department referenced having some standpipes at those locations. We're certainly amenable to that, as well as all the other issues that they had in their letter about the alarms, and there were a few things, I guess, some fire extinguisher locations and so on. We're good with all those.
Let's
Arthur, that-
mark this as A9.
Yep, so, and that's the ground floor plan. Does that have a number, or it just says ground floor plan?
A3.
A3. Thank you.
Let's see. So once again, we have 2 remote elevator lobbies, 2 remote stairs. We have what they call a horizontal exit between the buildings, which separates the building with a fire rating that basically partitions the building off, allows free movement of people, but increases fire safety in the building. We have a trash room centrally located in the building. The trash room has 2 chutes in it, a trash chute and a recycling chute. It also has room in the chute for larger things that can't go down the chute, where residents can go and leave it there, and staff will come and bring it down to the trash room later. Those chutes go right down into the compactor, gets compacted, and in the main trash room. And Mario spoke a little bit earlier about how those are all taken out. Just one thing, the building is, and all the units are ADA adaptable per the building code. All spaces are accessible, okay? The elevators are stretcher compliant, okay? The difference on the upper floors is, as I mentioned before, there's 1 additional unit because those corridors go away, and we incorporate that in the spaces. Also, the 4th floor, there is 29 of the 43 units on the 4th floor have lofts in them. The lofts of them are spaces that are up and they're open to, with a railing down into the living room. They're not intended to be used as a bedroom. In fact, only the studio ones, I even have closets up there. So they're open spaces, not bedrooms. That was referenced in one of the things, one of the letters. I'd like to, I have all the floor plans here, and I wasn't going to put those up without, Frank, can I have the roof plan? The roof plan didn't make it to me here. Sorry.
We'll mark this as A10. This is the roof plan,
Yeah.
and this is sheet what of?
A7. So, on the roof plan, you can see that we have, sloped roofs going around the entire perimeter. I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about the exterior design. But you can see there's a large flat area in the middle. That's really a well, that's set back. The intention is to put mechanical equipment, just in the middle, over the corridor, down the center of the well. The walls go up 3.5 feet. The majority of the mechanical equipment up there are just little condensers that are only 3.5 feet high. So all the equipment that would be put up on this roof would be fully shielded and not visible from the ground at all. And they're located so far back, there'd be no acoustical impact to anyone from that. One thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is that the fire department had requested that we provide some areas for 2 locations for a ladder to be able to come up and then not have to put the ladder over the sloped roof. They asked it to be somewhere in the northeast and north or south, the 2 corners of the building. We're happy to comply and work with them out as that letter just really came out yesterday. We haven't time to have fully design it. What I would suggest is that we will, as a condition for resolution compliance, we'll work with the fire department, facilitate it, and the areas that we're planning on putting it would be right by where the stairs are on the north and the east and the west corners or sides of the building, you know. But we will certainly work with them and planning staff to go through that. Just some other little house cleaning things on the roof, just so everyone knows, the building is intended to be LEED certified. It's state-of-the-art with all that, with the energy compliance. We're expecting we probably get silver or something to that. Gold? I guess we're gonna get gold. I've been corrected. As well as Energy Star compliant, and it is an all-electric building to reduce the use on fossil fuels. Okay. Then I'd like to turn everyone's attention to the rendering that we have
Why
done.
don't we switch things so you can refer to that? And this rendering was prepared by your office, correct?
Under our supervision, yes.
So this is A11.
So I'd like to use the rendering to talk about the aesthetics of the building and so
And
on.
what's the
and so
perspective
forth.
that we're looking at is?
We're looking at it from the,
And that doesn't have a number on it, right? It's just rendering?
it's just rendering.
Okay.
I think it was sent over to your office electronically yesterday.
Today, I think it
So
was.
I think that you have it electronically, but I have electronically.
I just didn't know if it had the other one at A3, I just didn't know.
No,
if it
this
had
is
it.
No,
just
this-
marked up. So the perspective,
Is from the southeast corner,
On
looking
Robeson.
up on Robeson. Right, you know, looking up and showing the building entrance down in the corner and the facade of the building. So once again, I talked about the building being 5 stories tall. Your zoning ordinance permits 5 stories, 75 feet. This building is 5 stories, 68 feet, 10 inches. We measured the 68 feet, 10 inches from the average grade to to the level of the highest part of the roof, the flat roof area. Actually, your zoning, it could be construed that we measured to the mean part of the roof would actually be several feet lower, but we took the higher number to put in our application. So it's 68 feet 10. This building it was asked about the relationship of the size of buildings A and C on the site. The 4-story portion of it is very close to the A and C building. What makes it different is it's sitting up on a 15-foot high parking garage. So those, depending on where you measure and where are the grades, I would answer that question is that it's up to 15 feet taller than the other buildings. But once again, it's well within the zoning ordinance height restrictions. Okay. As part of designing the building, we reviewed the redevelopment plan and some of the guidelines and looked at their building design guidelines. And I'm going to go through a few of them quickly. One was the building massing. It talked about breaking up the building massing with bays and having those bays going in and out. And that's exactly what you see in here, how the building is set back, it's undulating around, and it's happening frequently across the building, okay? And those bays are further identified by varying materials, textures, colors, and some height changes in the facade. All is described in the building massing section under the building design. It also talks about vertical differentiation, and what that means is that buildings should have a base, a middle, and a top. Well, this building clearly has that. We have a nice strong base, all brick material, different articulation of the openings down there, down at the base to reinforce it. We have a middle, which is more the residential portions, which once again, we break up that middle with various changes, materials, different fenestrations, and it's clearly different from the base. And then we have a top that is the shingled roof, that is a royal strong element, which all ties into the relationship of the adjoining buildings. Okay. They also talk in the redevelopment plan about the upper floor massing and even further breaking down the upper floor. And that's achieved by some places, the upper floors, we got bands going across, but we've broken out materials where we've had just different materials and textures at the top floor to further break that up and make architectural interest in it and break up that massing. And we've introduced a corner element, which is the entry. The balconies that we've put in are all inset balconies as described in the redevelopment plan. And as regarding the architectural style, we're consistent with the adjacent buildings. We've picked up pieces and characters of the base of the building. The redevelopment plan says that we should design this, or all the site, as an ensemble, and that they're all, they work together, creating a cohesive neighborhood. I think we varied a little bit in the colors, a little bit in the materials, the textures, how we put them together, but we've used the same palette to create that ensemble and to create that. The materials of the building is on the walls are brick, a mixture of cementitious boards and vinyl, and then there's the asphalt shingles up on the roof. I've already talked about the mechanicals all being mechanicals being shielded. I guess the next thing really to talk about is the signage. We're requesting four signs. One and two. Mario, have you got your report of the building?
And that was previously marked.
So, I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
talk about.
which one are we looking at, just so we know?
First,
for the record?
I'm gonna talk about, the A12, it's on our set A12, it was a signage sheet.
And A2 is the other board we just put back up.
Okay, so A12 is your signage sheet. Does
Yeah.
it have a different number?
It's
other-
it's A12,
Oh,
what,
it's A12 there as well. It just happens to be our exhibit A12 as well,
it's our exhibit A12?
Yep.
How could we,
right? Okay, perfect.
okay. So, on our building, and I'm going to refer to, Mario's plan. Second. So I'm referring to exhibit, whatever this one was, it was A4. On the proposal, we're proposing, three signs. We're proposing a sign type A, which is at the entrance of the building. We're proposing two sign type Bs, which are, on the east and west elevation towards the back of the building, up high on the building, okay? And if you go to our sheet A12, and exhibit A12, we've illustrated those and located them. And I lost the rendering. Oh, here. The first sign probably shows very well in the rendering, which was exhibit A11. It's right down here on the grade, right out of the entrance. And that's a 10.5 square foot sign. Okay, it's right at the public entrance, and it's backlit letters. Okay. The two signs that are on those end caps of the building are 23.75 square feet, okay? They're located up high on the building, and we have on this exhibit A12, we show them in elevation, locating where they are up at the top of the building. Your zoning ordinance permits, in this particular building, two wall signs. It permits a wall sign by the entrance and the street front, which we conform. So that sign is fully conforming, the sign A. The sign B, when we're on a corner lot, we're allowed two additional wall signs that don't need to be related to the entrance. So one of those other two is as of right. The second one is what we're requesting a variance for additional one. We think it's very important for wayfinding to identify the building and the site from the railroad side and from the adjoining properties. Okay. On the Phase 1 building, and I'm going to go back to Mario's exhibit A4. In building C, Avalon has found that there's no signage out here on this building, and wanted to put some signage for recognition on it. We have one small sign right in front at the entrance, which on our sheet is sign type C. It's 4.7 square feet. It's on a little retaining wall right out in front of the building and entrance, and that is non-illuminated. And then down on the end cap of building C, looking straight to the south, okay, we have a sign up here that's running vertically, that's 53.27 square feet. Once again, that sign is internally illuminated, and that will give recognition down the street as you're coming up and approaching and enter into the property. That sign is also an as-of-right sign, it requires no variances. So from a,
Can I get clarification, those are currently in phase 2 you're talking, or in the original phase?
that was in phase 1.
So we're adding a sign on phase 1,
Yes,
and that's conforming.
2 signs on phase 1. Actually, it's the end cap sign here, and then the little sign at the entrance of that building. And I think that was identified in the notice as well.
Right. So what is the sign we need relief from? And then put your planning hat on for a moment.
Okay, the sign that we need the relief from is having a third sign, one of the type 2 signs.
And which building, so we're not confused?
In phase 2 building,
Phase
the
2.
new building.
Okay, so the second sign is what we need relief from in the phase 2 building,
Correct.
The second wall sign,
second wall sign.
that's not at the entrance,
Okay.
yes.
Just show us the location one more time so we're clear on what we're asking for. For the one that needs the variance.
Well, there's one here and one here. Take your pick. I think-
You're allowed one, and the second one would need a variance.
And they're identical,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. And they're identical.
So we need relief for 2 wall signs on the phase 2 building,
One.
period.
We need relief for,
In order to
Right.
have
Have
2
to,
wall
yes,
signs.
right.
Yes, okay.
All right, so let's talk about the benefits of having the sign and what the justification of the board is to grant the variance you're
Okay.
seeking, and what kind of impacts, negative or otherwise, that might result from
yeah,
that
so
sign.
I see this as being a C2 variance, okay? And going through it, I think there's, this sign is helping in wayfinding. It's identification to the building, particularly at the back at the railroad and so on, coming back in there. It's, the benefit goes to beyond just the landowner, it goes to the general public in noticing that and being able to recognize the building and the development, okay? It's to this specific piece of property. I do not see any adverse impacts to any of the adjacent properties. It's in the back of the building and it's,
It's not
it's
gonna
very.
impact the townhouse owners.
It's not gonna impact, I don't think my opinion is it doesn't impact anyone, okay? And it's an appropriate signage for the building, it was designed, it's very understated, nice backlit letters. I think that that there are purposes of the municipal land use law that are advanced, being A, B, C, E, and I, from the property being appropriate use and development of lands, secure for fire and safety, adequate light and air, promotion of proper densities, and promoting a desirable visual environment, okay? And I think it can be granted without substantially impacting the intent of the purpose of the zone plan.
Thank you. Last issue we want to cover.
Yes.
There's some questions about bike storage, battery or otherwise. Is there any bike storage provided in this building?
There's no bike storage provided in this building. The bike storage, like the other amenities, are provided in the Phase 1 project.
Anything else that you want to touch on with testimony by
I
way
have
of
a que- I
either
have a
the
question
fire
about
bureau or
that.
the?
I have a question about that. Phase 1,
Well, I think he's got to finish his testimony first.
no, I just want to get a clarification on, you said about the bikes. Phase 1 has it, Phase 2 does not have bike storage?
Correct. So if you have a bike and you live in Phase 2, you can put it in Phase 1 bike area.
Put it in bike room there. In
Across the
bike-
street?
Yes,
And it's right, I believe the bike room is right by the stairs.
right by where
over
we're
here.
sitting.
Right close where we're sitting.
And then if we could just clarify the signage from phase 1, just so, because all the lots from phase 1 and 2 were included in this
Yes.
application. So technically, we could do amended preliminary and final of phase 1 just with regard to the signage. It was also in their notice, and then we'll just do preliminary for phase 2.
Okay.
But that will cover everything.
That was my,
I
or
just
I was
wanna-
gonna
Yep,
go next. with
Yep,
that.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure that we know exactly what that relief is. So if you could
Yep.
just spell that out again for us.
So in Phase 2, the relief is for one additional.
That I've got.
No,
Oh,
phase
phase-
one,
oh,
phase
phase one?
Yep.
They're out, well, as of right,
Let's
we're
just
adding two
identify the
signs.
location one more
Yes.
time,
Okay,
so it's
so
clear for the
we're-
record.
We're adding two signs. One sign, let me just back up my notes here. One sign is indicated on our plans is a type C sign, which is a 4.7 square foot wall sign located along the public entrance along Robeson.
So let's
At the
point to that on
entrance.
the overall campus plan that we have up.
It's right there at the corner.
Okay, and which sheet is that you're referring
That's,
to? Which exhibit?
I'm referring to
That's-
exhibit A4.
Okay.
It's exhibit 2, A4, sheet A4.
Got it.
Of the set.
Thank you.
Okay. The second sign is one 53.27 square foot wall sign. It's on the facade. It's approximately 21 8 inches above the grade to the bottom of the sign, okay?
And on the facade of which building?
It's on the facade on the building C,
Okay.
okay? And it is on the very southern elevation on the corner. And there is a plan on my exhibit A12 that specifically, key plan, that flags out all those locations.
Perfect.
Specifically on it.
Perfect, thank you.
So, A12 key plan identifies all the locations.
Great. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, just on the signage on the new construction building.
Yes.
In the back, it's tough to see. It's very difficult for us to see. Is the lettering, is that horizontal?
You wanna
And it
bring that
faces
up?
east and west? Okay. So that's, I'm not that blind. Okay. All right, no, that was my question. So you're really looking for the train ridership to be able to view those? Okay.
And the lighting of it is not gonna affect the apartments that are right underneath it.
It's gonna be less lighting than if someone has their blinds up. It's letters, they're backlit, it's like silhouette letters. So it's really very subtle and understated.
Thank you.
I'm gonna jump back to these EVs that I'm
Okay.
gonna question you on here.
Yep.
Two questions, and so you have 31 spots along that back wall inside the deck, with a total of 179 spaces
Yes,
and 171 units,
yes.
apartments, and everyone's mandated to have one in the release.
Everyone will have, there'll be access to it. So I believe, and maybe Ludi can talk a little bit more about the operation.
She did.
So my question is, what if you don't have 31 people with an electric
Right.
car?
So, obviously the EV, person that have an EV will use one of these spaces, and then the other EV spaces will be used by regular cars, non-EV cars.
So I guess the question is, why do you need 31 EV spots with charging stations?
By New Jersey, we have to do 15% of the parking spaces as EV spaces.
Yeah, so that's a relatively new law that is required, so we're complying with that.
The question, though, is if they have more parking, because I think the testimony was you have sufficient parking without counting the EVs as double.
Yeah, we did not take the bonus that you're entitled to, so we have more than, we're entitled to a bonus that we didn't take credit for. So we have,
Yeah, I'm not worried about the number of parking spaces. I was more concerned that, I was looking to get that number down.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to figure out. You need the 15%, so you did the 15% of the regular parking that you're required, but if you decrease the regular parking and took the credit, is there any
No, I think we want to have the parking spaces.
Okay.
I mean,
What's the use of, you have EV at the south deck?
did we do anything in the?
We don't.
We don't in
No.
phase one?
You don't?
It wasn't mandated then.
Is there EV in the transit deck?
So,
I don't know.
No. So, I mean, I would envision if somebody has an electric car and they live in the south building, they'll probably take the spot in this building. I would think, if that's important to them, but, yeah, they're required now. We're complying with the law, and, we don't want to give up any spots. I mean, going to your point, you know, we don't want people to have to go on the street and park. We want the residents to use the garages.
It's this board's position to not have EV charging stations in underground parking. Understand about the sprinklers. There are a limited number of studies that have been done at this time to even show the benefits of sprinklers on EVs. What we do know is that it takes thousands of gallons of water, it takes multiple hours, and EV fires can rekindle up to 72 hours later. Those are worst-case scenarios. What do we know about the temperature of an EV fire? What is the temperature, do we know?
I'm not qualified to answer that.
It's about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 2,000 degrees Celsius. At what temperature does concrete start to break down, spalling?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay, so that is the major concern that this board has, and it's something that we've discussed here in public session, is our concern for life safety. An EV fire, the smoke from an EV fire is as black smoke can get. And inside of an underground structure, there are concerns about, from the fire chief and from the Board of Engineers, which is our fire chiefs and our fire administrators. Their concern is walking into that kind of a structure, underground.
Okay, well, just a clarification, what is meant by underground? I mean, we're at grade level here. I mean, the back wall of the
Interior
garage.
structure,
Just
anything
Any
interior.
interior
Enclosed.
structure
Any
is
interior.
considered underground.
And just for the record,
not a
the fire
basement.
marshal, the fire official in his letter states that the EV charging station shall not be interior.
So can we have 1 second? We might have a solution for you.
Okay?
Maybe take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute recess.
Sorry, Karen.
everybody, please remember the cameras and microphones will still be operational.
Okay.
Hi, we're back.
Yeah, you're back.
Our final witness is Carl Pankey with Langen Engineering. He's an expert in traffic engineering. If I could, I'd like to have him introduced and your experience and background for the board.
Certainly. Again, my name is Carl Penke, Carl with a K, Penke, P-E-H-N-K-E, Associate Principal with Langen Engineering, One University Plaza, Princeton, New Jersey. I am a registered professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My area of expertise is traffic engineering. I've been before this board many times in the past, including on this project.
I'd offer Mr. Pankey as an expert in traffic engineering.
He is accepted.
Carl, if you could you just identify what studies you undertook in connection with this project in this phase and what your findings are?
Sure, yeah, very briefly, we did prepare an updated traffic impact study that was submitted with this application, dated December of 2024. As you were, I was involved and prepared the original traffic planning and design on this project. That study has been basically following the standard methodologies that this board is aware of. I also did have an opportunity to review the CHA comments dated February 12th. There was a series of about 7 questions, comments, requests for additional backup, and I'll run through that real quick. Generally, from the traffic standpoint, the site, as you're aware, has been designed with the access from Southbridge Street, with the traffic signal and the widenings we did along Southbridge Street. And also the street connection out to Route 206, which has been completed and in the process of dedication and hopefully soon to be opened as part of that process. That establishes the access for the redevelopment area and the train station redevelopment area. Also part of that, the design is the internal street system, grid system that was well thought out and designed to accommodate the development of this project, Phase 1, Phase 2, in its entirety. Basically, the traffic study is finding that things are operating as we anticipated, as was designed. The traffic signal is operating well and accommodating the volumes that are coming in and out of the site. Phase 2 of this project will generate some additional traffic. That traffic was not unanticipated when we originally designed this site. And again, will be accommodated on the access system and street grid system, which has been established. I don't need a plan to show it. You guys have all been out there. You've seen what's there and what's been created by this board and the applicants that have been before you. There have been some questions and comments in the CHA report. The first 2 comments really just asked for some additional backup data, average daily traffic on South Bridge Street, whether we have vehicle classification information, speed data, and so forth. All of that's sort of related to, has the analysis been done right, and the pedestrian environment in terms of speed data. And what I will tell you is in the traffic study, the traffic counts did incorporate a classification count of the vehicles that are traveling along South Bridge Street and entering the site. More importantly, that data was incorporated in our modeling and analysis. That's the more important aspect of it, but it is in the report and it is reflected in the analysis. We can provide CHA data on the average daily traffic on South Bridge Street. DOT does have some data over the past years. Basically, South Bridge Street's accommodating close to 11,000 to 12,000 vehicles per day, about a 50-50 split. That is consistent with the count data that we've collected in the past and more recently with this update. So it confirms the data that we've been using. With regard to speed data, we generally don't collect speed data as part of a traffic study, but I think the question relates more to the pedestrian environment. And I think what I would respond to that is we spent an awful lot of time on the planning on this project, and the pedestrian environment designed in this project is extremely robust. It's evident by just going out there. You can see that we've accomplished what our goals were, to create a pedestrian-friendly environment with all the appropriate signage, crosswalks, and identities, and created a grid and street system and street typology that is designed to both accommodate the pedestrian and the vehicular needs of the environment while inhibiting speeds. And I think we've accomplished that. I don't believe that we need to do any enhancements. We're not really changing that environment at this point in time. And again, I would just refer to, we're not referring to plans and presumptions here. The environment exists, you've seen it, I've seen it, I believe it's working. I think it's actually accomplished much of the planning goals that we pursued over the many, many years. CHA did ask for some additional backup. They asked that we provide an existing analysis. We can provide that as a condition of approval. They also asked for backup on the distributions that we've prepared in the traffic study, and we can provide that backup too. That it all dates back to the original planning of this study. Basically, the patterns we're seeing out there are, there's always some variation, but similar to what we anticipated. Certainly no major differences. And it all comes down to really the operational analysis. And there was two questions that probably go to that aspect of it in the CHA report, and that really is, do we look at the queues and delays on linkages and lanes, which we did, and is actually in the analysis that's documented in the traffic report. And they did identify, as we did, that the operation of the traffic signal on the egress from Robeson Place in the morning is operating at a lower level of service for just on the CD range versus the higher level of service that we maintain on Bridge Street. That's purposeful. We maintain, when we design the signal, the prioritization of South Bridge Street. It is coordinated with the traffic signals at Veterans Memorial Drive. The level of service is adequate. The queues and delays and spillbacks to linkages are as we anticipate from the operation of the cycling through of a traffic signal. There's nothing happening out here that is unusual or untenable. And what I would say is, really based on the analysis we've done to date, there's no recommendations I would make for adjustments to that signal at this point in time. And we are talking about simply programming. So when the community's done, there's always the opportunity to go back and tweak a signal timing and adjustment. We don't need additional lanes. We don't need additional capacity. So that look-see occurs over time as traffic signals are maintained. So at this point in time, I don't see anything in the analysis and report that we didn't anticipate and design for, nor that I would make any recommended changes at this point in time. Quite frankly, from a traffic standpoint, I'm quite pleased with what we've developed here. It's actually a model of some really good planning. There was a lot of work, again, that I think particularly went into the pedestrian environment on this site. I know there was a ton of time spent on that and to make sure that the street typologies were right. And I think it speaks for itself when you go out there. I think it's operating well. So I think that's really the summary on the traffic study. We will provide a full response as a condition of approval and the backup data that's requested, and it all supports the traffic study. That's really it.
Any questions?
Larry, go ahead.
Well, what do you anticipate Station Road, when it opens, how much traffic will that take towards, away from the traffic light? Will that improve the
Sure.
traffic light?
Sure. So the modeling we've done when we designed Station Road and permitted it with DOT, basically around 15% of the traffic from the residential comes from the south on 206, and right now is turning onto South Bridge Street and coming up and making that left. Clearly, when you open Station Road, the majority of that traffic's just going to go straight up and come in on Station Road. So that left turn in from South Bridge Street, which works, will lighten up a little bit. You're always going to have some people that are heading to the transit, so it's like we expect maybe 5% will continue on South Bridge and maybe 10%. Probably the biggest change is the right turn out onto 206. Coming down Bridge Street through 206 has a lot more delay than you're going to see on Station Road. So there is a chunk of traffic that actually makes the left out onto South Bridge Street, goes over to Veterans, sneaks up Veterans to go up to the Circle and out that way. We would expect that left coming out of Robeson onto South Bridge Street to Veterans is actually going to divert, and we expect that up to 20% of our traffic may divert and go directly out onto 206 northbound. So that's where we expect to see the biggest change. And that was always the benefit of that direct connection out. It's a nice, clean, quick direction, gets rid of the friction that's on South Bridge Street, the traffic signal that operates at South Bridge and 206. So that's where the benefit of that connection comes in. And so the relief will be more towards the Somerville Borough side traffic impacts, which is what we wanted to do when we designed that.
Thank you.
Did you do any parking analysis, street parking analysis, or
We-
really
we-
focused on traffic?
On the traffic, we didn't do any, we're aware of the situation. I think Mario really touched on the overall numbers. We're meeting the numbers. This project is self-parking, so it won't be aggravating the situation out there. If you recall back when originally, this was part of the discussions when we originally designed this, and we always knew at the end we might get to a management situation because part of the concern was the transit people would not use the deck and park on the street and might have to go to residential parking strictures. The other aspect of that is the use of the townhome garages. Townhome garages are a required space. It's in the homeowner's documents. They're supposed to be using those spaces. We know that when a community like this starts up, you'll always have a percentage of those spaces that are being used for boxes and storage and furniture in a young community. But over time, the homeowners association will have to enforce the docks, and those spaces need to be used properly. And there could be 20, 25, 30 spaces that are not being used properly at this point in time. And that's a management thing, and that might be part of that discussion we have in that condition. That residential sticker, that was discussed. That might be a need, and you do that. You have an ordinance for that. You have a basis for a residential sticker program. So those are things that can be employed, particularly when the municipality takes over jurisdiction of the roads and has full Title 39 enforcement.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? All right, I'm going to open to...
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open this up to the public for those that have comments or questions concerning this.
Hello, my name is David Chang. I'm
Oh,
resident of
wait,
31.
Can we move that poster? We're going to actually ask you to go to the standing microphone.
And if everyone could just speak loudly, slowly, just so we can get everything on the record.
Yes. Hello, my name is David Chang. I'm with 31 South Davenport Street. Just a couple of facts based on the wonderful presentation. Avalon does charge for the first parking spot of $125. Second parking spot is $75. Unfortunately, people are cheap, and they're going to have more than one car in their resident. Where are they parking? I would say that you go outside and see how many illegal parking spots are being taken up by the Avalon. I have a dozen photos of me addressing residents at the Avalon, asking them where they live, and they are parking on the streets and walking over to their home. I am here to publicly and formally object to Avalon Bay Phase 2, located on Robeson Street in Somerville. I am addressing violations. One thing that you addressed, and I thank you for the questions regarding parking. Above parking is safety. You're talking about a couple square acres and inducing another 171 families. I don't even understand how that would be even addressed on a traffic scale. I would disagree personally, as my opinion, that there is a lot of traffic, a lot of cars coming through here. It is not just families, it is DoorDash, it's people visiting on the weekends. I would also like to point out that people don't move with moving services. They move with their U-Hauls, and they're parking their commercial vehicles all over the street. My car has been hit at least twice by the pet animal van. I've addressed it with them multiple times, also a resident of Avalon. So there's a lot of things that are being told here and not told. On top of that, I do understand that Robeson will be the part that's under construction. The blacktop, when it is removed, it does flood. The storm drains, sewer drains are about, I would say, about 6 inches higher than the blacktop is. So if the Avalon is working on it, I would encourage the council to really know that it floods. And if they're gonna constantly keep on blacktopping, which we all know you can't blacktop during the winter, we could expect winter storms and winter rain to be flooding our streets. In addition to that, I just wanted to also point out that concrete does melt at 3,000 Fahrenheit, and rebar does melt at 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. My formal objection has been sent to the clerk of the township. I've emailed it to her. Me being here and me being here with my neighbors, I would like to address that my neighbors should announce their name, address, and let you know that this is your first time speaking here. Outside of that, me and my neighbors, we do utilize our garage parking. It is like a nightmare at night to fight people for parking spots, because I'm not fighting my neighbor, I'm fighting the Avalon. I will tell you that New Jersey Transit garage is being utilized. The parking numbers that were given to you, they are empty because you have to pay for them. So I would ask the council, would you choose to pay or would you choose not to pay for your second car? And the answer to the most obvious person that's paying $4,000 a month in Avalon rents are to park on the street. And that would be the total of my objection. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marissa Wilkins. I live at 1042 Station Road, directly south of our current location. Tackling on to what David said, and great to put a face to the name. We hear from him on the HOA board a lot. My concern regarding one of the state requirements made about the 500 feet rule. Based on where I live, if I have a second car needed, I now am being asked to pay for parking in this parking deck here. I'm happy to pay for parking, but one suggestion I might make is, can we open the south or building C parking deck with those 85 free spaces to be additional for rent spaces for the residents of the townhomes to be more centrally located to where our units are. Regarding the pedestrian concerns, I believe that the current parking state regarding parking in fire lanes, parking too close to corners, etc., is causing risk to pedestrians. I don't think the design is wrong. I think it's an issue with how the parking is currently being managed. And particularly from Robeson Street turning left onto Station Road, I can't see pedestrians that are trying to cross. And I've had a couple close encounters either with dogs that are running out of people's front doors or with pedestrians walking as well. And then the last thing I would say regarding Station Road and that opening all the way to 206, I would please ask that we complete the bike lane or a bike path. Right now it ends at kind of a driveway going into the field, and the only way to get to 206 is to hop the vehicle fence, which is sharp and could cause harm to somebody that is walking. I frequently go that direction, and today I'm able to do that safely because the road is closed. But if it was to reopen, the lanes are very, very skinny, even for vehicles, not enough room for pedestrians to kind of make it all the way to 206. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Babinski. I live on Sternadori Road. I'm actually a trustee on the HOA Condo Association, but the views I express today are my own. I just want to point out that I think on some original site plan, there was almost 30 more on-street parking spaces in the northwest corner. There was basically a row of parking against the rail line. I'm not sure when that got changed, but I think that is part of the issue that we face today, because that's a lot of spaces. I would love if we could get a copy of some of the parking details that were outlined by the applicant today, because there was a lot of numbers very quickly, and I think that'd be good for the residents to understand. I think David hit on this already, but if it costs extra for two-car couples to park in a garage when there is free on-street parking, I think it's kind of a no-brainer what people are going to do. I'd like to understand how Avalon intends to enforce the residents park within their garages. I'd like to understand where the visitors are designated to park. I'd like to understand where the construction vehicles will be parking during this construction. I'd love to get involved or have my comments heard in the parking transition plan that was potentially floated. I'd like to understand how fire apparatus will handle incidents in the northwest corner of the building, as well as the last two units, the condo buildings. As being a former firefighter myself, I could see that being challenging in a 40-foot truck. I'd like to understand what Avalon plans to do about the dumpsters. Right now, one is usually always out in the street with trash all around it. A big question of mine is the emergency right-of-way, or whatever's going to be in the rear of the proposed structure. It'd be nice if that could be bollards instead of a gate, so that those walking, it is a transit village, they could walk directly to the the westernmost stairs on the eastbound platform, which a lot of us take in the morning. And then there's just not a lot of greenery around here. This is going to be another big structure. It's sort of related, but how can any of the residents here get more information on the green seam, or how are we going to make this place a little more green? I think 13 trees or whatever it is isn't really it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Clara Jimenez. I live at 37 Robinson Street, and it's my first time speaking to the council. My primary concern, as many of my neighbors, is the same. In addition to the parking concerns, which have been addressed at length here, the width of the roads and how we're going to have sufficient emergency response vehicles making it through, especially at night. We have had incidents where we have fire engines that then preclude our ability to come back home because it is so tight and narrow. And so I just ask that now that we have additional buildings, additional families coming in, if that is what's going to happen, that get addressed. Another concern that I didn't hear raised, but certainly is one of mine, is I imagine most of these temporary residents will bring with them their pets. And I just didn't see anything in the plans that were presented today for additional space for those pets to relieve themselves in spaces other than the front of the townhomes in the way they are being kept. And so that is not something that I saw addressed. Something else that I didn't see addressed, it may have been addressed before, is the availability, quite frankly, of the water pressure in this area. I know it's generally low, and I don't know if that is being taken into account where you're thinking about over 150 units. And I join my neighbors, and I'll probably also raise my formal objection to the expansion in the way that has been presented today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Donald, I'll wait till I get to the microphone. Donald Storms, Veterans Memorial Drive. I didn't hear any mention about affordable housing, so my question is, how many units are going to be affordable housing, and are they going to be spread throughout the project? I have a second question about the lighting. On the engineer's report, it says verify foot candles, minimum, maximum, average coverage, and I didn't hear any testimony about lighting except very vague about no specifics on foot candles and the coverage. That maybe that will be shown on the plans in the next meeting, but that was my only two questions, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Brianna Leary. I live at 24 South Davenport Street, which is sort of like directly south. I just want to formally object, I guess, to the removal of the 4 spaces. I don't know how, with everything that's been proposed, with all of the parking issues, that 4 spaces being removed could be acceptable. There's been, to my knowledge, no concessions being made by Avalon to provide additional parking to the people who those spaces were initially provided for. So yes. And additionally, with the 500 foot measured directly from the very furthest corner of the corner unit of Robeson to the parking lot is exactly 500 feet. And I think reasonably, most units are not on that very specific corner. So that is not really adequate additional parking for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we're gonna.
Hello, my name is Sue Chin, and forgive my English, it's not that great, okay? But one thing is,
Can you just state your address too for the record,
okay,
please? I'm sorry.
I live in the 73 Robeson Street.
Thank you.
Okay. And the one thing I really want you to look at, seems the Avalon, right? The apartment, they promote the pet. I have nothing against the dog or any animal. But the thing is, if you promote to have a pet, right, in the apartment, you should have a space for them to run free. And then I would like to invite you guys, if you have time, to walk to our community and walk by the sidewalk, and then you will see what happened when the dog didn't really have a natural place to pee or to poop. And then also, a lot of, I believe a lot of homeowner or the renter, they are responsible person. But sometimes you have someone, I cannot say it's someone, most, you can walk around the, Robertson Street, you can see the poop around, and the Sternadoria, also the same. People don't pick up their poop, the dog poop. So I think it's environmental issue also. So I really want you to look at it. I really wish they have a space provided for the dog. Maybe in the wetland area, I don't know. But just my suggestion and my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public session. Public comment. All right, how do I do the carry? I can just carry?
So, we've made a formal request.
Well, I guess we have two choices. We could
Yeah.
request a carry.
Can we address some of the public's concerns before we get to that?
Sure.
Yeah, I think, so there was a number of, you're okay with this, Chair?
I am fine with
All right.
that.
So, a number of issues, and then some of you have been to council meetings before. And I think I had said at that time, some of you may know, that essentially this area is still private property. The borough has no control over this property at this time. At some point in the future, whether that be the near future or the extended future, the borough will take control of the roads. They will be deeded over to the borough, and the borough at that time will take control. I've stated it publicly before. Once the borough takes control, we will implement some type of controlled parking on the streets. We have no choice. I see it's a problem. I think everybody on the council sees it's an issue, and everybody up here sees it's an issue. But it is not an issue that we can address at this point in time. We just legally, it's not ours to address. So a number of the issues that you brought up, whether it be parking, whether it be dog stuff, those are issues that at this point in time we cannot control. The green seam will be opened soon. It's our Somerville's own little central park. There's very few communities that actually created a new park almost in their downtown. We happen to be able to do it. So there's trails in there, there's access points, and we're looking to open that fairly soon. As for affordable housing, at the same time that your project generated an affordable component, I had gone to this developer as well, and they also agreed to affordable component. And that component came in the form of a donation, an affordable housing donation, to a newly established affordable housing trust fund to get our affordable housing program off the ground. And again, as you did and as they did, it was not a requirement of the site plan. This developer did it because of a community conscience. And again, I've stated to them privately and to them publicly, and thanked them for doing that. I think it's laudable what you did, and it's also laudable what you did as well. So people are aware, this building is not a new project. If you go back in time, this whole area, you may or may not know, was a portion of it was the train station, but most of it was contaminated land. It was an old railroad siding. And back in 2004, 2005, we began the approach of trying to identify what we wanted this new neighborhood to be, because that's really what it is. It's a new neighborhood. And we went to the community. This isn't something that the council planned. It's not something that the planning board planned. Our community came together and defined what this area will be. And this building is the last phase of that. One of the folks made a comment about parking spaces. Well, it may not have gone away, the additional spaces. That may have been an early initial concept plan. It may have been. I don't know what you're referencing, but over the course of time, there were a number of concept plans before you ultimately get to the final site, the overall site plan. So this is not, you know, a building that's coming out of the blue and we're saying, oh, you know, we're going to add this to the project too. This is something that has been at play for 2 decades, for 20 years. And our goal was to take a contaminated area and turn it into a wonderful part of the Somerville community. And we think we've done that. Every neighborhood has issues. I can tell you that. I've been, you know, since 2001 is when I first came to the council table. So every neighborhood has issues, and these issues come and go. We can't address those issues right now. Will we address them when we take control? Absolutely. I have the council president here. He's shaking his head. I can see that. And it's something that I've committed to you in past meetings as well. We don't have control. I thank the developer for saying that they will work with us in that transition so that we can understand what those challenges are as we work towards taking control of those roads, and we can implement then something very quickly. I've asked for a little patience in the past. I'll ask for a little bit of patience again. It will be addressed when we can address it. But we know you're here. We appreciate you coming here. It's actually nice to have a full room. That means you care about your community, and that's, you know, that means we've done our work well in creating a neighborhood in Somerville. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you for making your comments known and your concerns known, and know that we hear them. Everybody at this board hears them, and we want to help make our community, every part of it, you know, a little bit better. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep.
One more. If you do want documents, if you want to see anything, any documents that you can look online, you can also file an OPRA request, an Open Public Records Act request. And everything that pertains, you can have all this.
This too can be yours.
And you can have every report, every piece of data. It's all available. It's all part of the public domain. It's ready and accessible. You can either file an OPRA request online, or you can go down to Borough Hall as well and file one, and they will comply. So, thank you.
So, back to you, Mr.
Yes, so I think we kind of have 2 choices. We could pursue the preliminary tonight and come back for the final when we have some of these issues you've raised examined to see what we might be able to do. Or we could carry the entire application to another date, give us time. Do you have a preference, Ludi?
Carry.
What's your
Carry
preference?
to the next
You want to
hearing.
carry everything? Okay. So, we heard the comments. I mean, I'm not sure we have a good solution for you, but we'll put our thinking caps on and see what we can come up with. And, you know, carry this to the next available meeting without new public notice. And I think there's a couple things that the residents said that we could maybe try to come up with some easy stuff.
What I could also do, Mr. Bruno, is I've been writing down some conditions and things that I know the board's going to want to consider. We could start vetting those out as well,
Okay.
to the extent that you could address them and have them ready for the board at the next meeting.
If you provide those for me, for sure.
Absolutely.
So your agenda.
All right, so I think the next available is going to be April 14th.
April 9th.
April 9th, okay? Wrong board, right?
That's the other board.
That's the other board. All right, so April 9th will carry with no further notice needed.
So maybe if you want to explain to the public what that What just transpired?
So what we're doing is there will be no action taken tonight. We're not going to do a vote. They're not asking for a preliminary site plan. They're not asking for anything. What it will do is it will carry. So basically, we're holding off, basically taking a pause on this evening and the testimony. They will come back on the 9th and present on some of the issues that we are just not at a resolution for. And they'll work on some of the conditions that they know are on with their, and then we'll pick this back up on the 9th. The notice is letting you know that there won't be any other notice. This is the notice that the next meeting for this will be on April 9th.
So you won't be receiving anything else in the mail, there won't be anything else in the newspaper or anything? Ryan, do you want to keep the exhibits? You want them to bring them back next time? What do you want them to do?
I'll take them.
So Carrie, you'll provide me with the list of what you think are the conditions that the board has talked about. We'll examine the EV issue. I mean, I don't know where we're gonna go with that, but we'll examine that. And we'll come back at the next meeting, hopefully to address these concerns, open conditions, and at that point, we'll request a vote.
Okay? And we have some other business that we'll take care of. We're going to take a 5-minute recess while we do this, while you step down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, remember the microphone and camera is still running. I knew where you're going. I was doing the same thing. I was like, well.
It is what it is. What I do think.
Only the virus.
No, I'm just letting them know why it's on there, because those are ones we already approved.
Yeah, well, so.
Yes. It's just an awareness. We don't have any right to approve or not approve. Yeah, this one though, original, the approval that we pushed through was just the sign. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Because she came back, but
Yeah.
the reason I asked him to have these on here, I think you're on that email.
Yeah.
Is more just an awareness for us, that they should be aware of the stuff that's going through.
Well, we saw, you know. No, I agree. I saw it, I was like, I don't think we actually approved it with the pergola in it, but it's just the signage. And then everything else. You got a lot of comments tonight?
I did not think we'd be here this long tonight. I told Hank, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
I told him I assumed they would be about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I go, there's not much that's going to be. We've seen the plan. We don't really go through step by step of every little thing.
They have to for the record. Okay.
Only if we did it for the record, though. Like, they're talking about some of these other things that they did. I'm like,
I know. Well, and the other thing was him throwing in something for the phase one. That's why I was looking at Karen. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, he's looking at pointing at a building. It's on phase one.
yeah.
Like we can do it, but it's got to be done and stated and done separately.
That should have just been, be a thing. It's already, like, they're conforming signs for the phase one stuff. They're not asking for any variance or relief.
No. So he could have just gone it here, but
Yeah.
maybe they want to.
That's another thing.
You know how to do that all on your own, Colin. I don't think anybody needs to help you with that. Should I say, well, maybe if you would discuss things with us, you wouldn't be in the doghouse? All right, Kara's in the bathroom, but hold on. All right, all that we have left is, I just wanted to go over, so on our agenda, you see that we have 2 ARB approvals. This is not for us to approve. This is something that I want the board, I feel like you should be aware of what the ARB is looking at, even if it isn't really coming back to us for a final approval. You should be aware of some of the things that have gone through. These are 2 signs. They were in your packet. You can look at them. 2 West, I think it was 2 West, right?
2 West Main, yeah.
Yeah, it has another issue with the pergola. That is, we had some questions and some concerns. That's gone back, so that did not go through. So these 2 were for the signage only. And they were put back through, and they were given approval on those. Under the pending business, affordable housing, there's really no true update right now. We're still working on adjusting our timeline and sticking to that timeline, making progress. I know that the committee is meeting again tomorrow, but there's really no new updates for the board. Improvement coverage ordinance, have you guys met on anything further? I know we'll get together what's ongoing through council.
Yeah, there has been no meeting since.
Okay, so I think that we just want to make sure that we continue to have those meetings and keep it moving forward. So maybe if we could try to have at least some kind of discussion on that next level, maybe before the next meeting, at least some kind of update so we keep it moving.
Sure.
Thank you. And then,
Yeah, the pool and deck ordinance is up for final hearing and adoption if the council so chooses on Monday night.
okay. And then the last was still, obviously, this conversation we've been having about EV charging stations. I did have some conversation with almost all the fire marshals again today. I seem to make them captives when they come into my building now, and then they know what I'm about to ask. Bound Brook is currently in the same situation. They are putting an ordinance through. So I'm trying to get a copy of that, what that will look like. It is something that every fire marshal is stating the same thing on record. But unfortunately, they're not the ones that put, what those local ordinances. So they're all recommending, they all state the same thing, including our own fire marshal has. So I know that we're moving forward on that, and we're still doing some research on figuring out the best way to get that taken care of so that we can protect any new residents coming through. Any questions or comments on pending business or anything? Okay. I have absolutely zero comments after this. It's been a long enough evening. I am going to open it up to the public for anything that was not on tonight's agenda. Okay, closing public. Then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?